Welcome back to digital class, and now we're looking at area of triangles. Now, this is the real part for P5, and whatever that we did just now in the previous subtopics are all something you have learned, and this is the main part for P5. Now, area of triangle, it seems like something that is very easy, and perhaps most of you know what is the formula, which is as you can see here, half times base times height. So such a simple things, why are we learning here? It's just like a P2, P3 kind of topic, right? It's because sometimes area of triangles can be very, very complicated and tricky, okay? So as you can see up here, this is triangle A, and something very simple, right? You know base times height times half or divide by 2 lah, basically, will gives you the area, okay? But if you look at triangle B, this base times with the height, which is here, and it seems like also the same thing. And triangle C, the base here and the height here, also the same thing. And what is interesting to take note is that triangle ABC actually have the same area. Although they looks very different in a way, but they actually have the same area because they have the same baseline and have the same height. And what is important that you are supposed to learn from this diagram is that sometimes the triangle might looks weird or maybe look a bit different, but as long as they have the same base and same height, they actually have the same area. That is something that is very, very important. Okay? Now, what I also want to remind you is that this base and this height actually always form 90 degree. So as you can see here, this is base, this is height, this is 90 degree. This is base, this is height, that's why it formed 90 degree. But teacher, this is base, but height is here. Yes, some of you might confuse the height as here. The answer is wrong. Why? Because here is not 90 degree. What you need to always understand is base, the line for base, the line for height, when you put together, it must always be 90 degree. Okay, no matter like this one, although it looks far away, but it always will form 90 degree. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, and I just want to bring you through some of the pictures or diagram so that you can see. So for example, practice 1, you have this 12, 5, 13. Now, if I were to ask you what is the area, some of you should be able to know is actually 5 times 12. Now, the word base, right? It doesn't really matter to be at the bottom. No. I can have the base to be on top. It's works the same way. I also even can call this 5 as base. Okay, base and height, actually it's not important to define them. Is it like this base or like this base? What you need to know is always it will form 90 degree. Now, I especially like this question C here. Now, and teacher, I know that base is here, 4 meter. I know that height is here, but I'm not given a height. How can I find? Now, again, by looking at this C, now you look back to this one. This is what we learned, right? Base times height. But teacher, I don't have height. How can I find? Can I just times 7? 4 times 7, then times half? No. This question C is specially designed to remind you that there are more than one way of calculating the area of triangle. It's still the same concept, base and height, but there are more than one way. For example, here, this is what? 7 meter. And this one I actually can consider as base. And this I actually can consider as height, 2 meter. Means that I can use half times 7 times 2. Teacher, it doesn't look like a base. But although it doesn't look like a base, but this, what I consider as base and the height 2 meter, still form 90 degree. So it means if you go and tilt your book, it actually become a base and a height also, right? So it doesn't really matter that although it looks like this, But if we tilted and go back down, it will be a 90 degree. Okay, so this is something that's important to take note. Okay, so as you can see, some of the pictures here, these are some of the pictures that important for you to take note on how the base and how the height can look like. Okay, now I just want to refer to picture number three, question number three here. Now, if you actually just imagine this is 20 cm, I'm trying to draw the same pictures here, 35 cm. Now, if I were to draw like this, then I say, okay, I have this part shaded. If I were to ask you what I'm drawing here, is it half of the rectangle? Probably all of you will say yes, right? Because it's obviously is actually a half of the triangle. Okay, sorry, I a bit exceeded, but it doesn't matter. So this part for sure is half of the rectangle. But if you look at this, do you think it's actually half of the rectangle? Probably some of you will say, huh, teacher, I don't think so. How do you know? But this shaded part is actually half of the triangle as well. Then you'll be like, huh, teacher, why? Yes, this shaded part, these two means that this A part plus this part B is actually half of the rectangle. Because in this space, both of them have it. And the height, this plus this height is actually the total length of it, which is 35. That's why, although it looks weird, but this shaded part is actually half of the rectangle here. Means that if I want to draw like this, okay, example, I'm drawing the same thing, 20 cm here, 35 cm here. I draw like this, like this. Then I have another one like this. Is this half of the triangle, a rectangle, sorry? Yes, it's still the same because it shares the same base, and this length plus this length is a total length here. That's why this shaded part can be also half of the rectangle. Okay, so I'm sharing some of the important parts that you should take note so that you will not get deceived by the question. Okay, let me just check. Is there any other nice triangle? I think no. Okay. So again, I hope you get the idea here. Triangle is a very simple concept, but it can be very, very, very confusing and tricky sometimes if you not look at it carefully. Okay, so let me just give you another example, last example before I end. So example, this dotted line, I'll just continue. This dotted line, I'll just continue. If I say this base is same as this one, okay? I draw like this. Now, I make it even further away. Does it still the same? The answer is yes. As long as they share the what? Same base and same height, they have the same area. So that is basically the part that is important to take note in area of triangle. Okay? So I hope you learned something, and I'll just stop here and thank you. See you.